Hi guys, Candied here, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, then welcome to my channel. This is a very controversial palette. That is the Subculture palette. I don't really need to say any more. If you are in the beauty community online at all, you will know all about this palette. It has created quite a stir. If you're not in the beauty community and you kind of only watch a few videos here and there, then just know that this is a really good brand. Anastasia Beverly Hills is an amazing brand. They have brought out some really beautiful products. Almost everything they've brought out has never gone wrong. Nothing has ever not turned into somebody's holy grail. Their previous palette was the Modern Renaissance palette, and this is like a cult favorite now. So, you know, that's how successful they were. So then they brought out this palette they called the sister of the Modern Renaissance palette, and this has created quite a stir in the beauty community. People have found the shadows are too soft, they're too pigmented, they're patchy, they don't blend. Yeah, just generally like just a whole list of problems really. So I'm going to go through a little bit about this palette, why I feel people are having problems with this palette, some major like drawbacks with this palette. I'm going to also compare it to a few other palettes, her older palettes, and also the Jeffree Star Androgyny palette. And I'm also going to do this demo. I created this out of this palette. It looks fine to me. I don't see anything wrong with it. So you might be interested in seeing that. Everything is going to be timestamped down below. So if you're wanting only bits and pieces of this video, you can go down below and check that out because I think this is going to be quite a long video. So let's start getting into why I feel this palette is such hard work for people. Okay, so let's just start with the basics of this palette and the basics of colour itself. So most palettes, when you buy them, they kind of come in tones that will all work with each other. They're kind of maybe all warm tones, there might be a couple of cool tones thrown in, but they're all generally really workable together. They're kind of all in the same sort of colour family. However, there have been a couple of palettes that have been released that are totally not. So this is when a palette comes out and it has maybe some bluer undertone shades and some warmer undertone shades. Now if we go back to the basic colour wheel, and the best way that I can explain this, if you know nothing about colour, if you know all this, then definitely skip ahead. If you know nothing about how colour works and you don't really understand that and you're maybe new to makeup or new to this in general, then colour can neutralise colour. So the easiest way for me to explain this is with hair. So when you're blonde and it's a little bit yellow or it's a little bit orange, a little bit gold, that's when we throw in a purple shampoo. So it's a purple blue shampoo. Now, if it's a good purple blue shampoo, you won't walk away with like purple hair or blue hair or gold hair. Like, it doesn't generally stay the same. You actually neutralize it and it comes down to more of a ashy sort of white tone. So the blue sort of counteracts the gold and the oranges. Another way that I can describe it using a hair example as well is I have been told, I've never done it myself, but I have been told that when a bleach blonde swims in a chlorine pool, she can often get green tones in her hair because of the chlorine and chemicals. To counteract this, apparently, like I said, I've never done it, you can actually use tomato sauce in your hair to use the red to counteract the green. The colours opposite each other and all around in the colour wheel will neutralise each other. They'll either go like maybe muddy or they will just kind of just neutralise. So when we take that into consideration and then when we look at this palette, we know we've got an issue and we know that there is an issue, and it's called complementary, but when not used in the right way, it's not complementary at all, it's neutralizing. So if I go in and use this beautiful red shade with this beautiful like sort of muddy green shade, what's going to happen? It's just going to go patchy, it's just going to start neutralizing each other, it's just going to be a freaking mess. Yes, I have seen people do this successfully on Instagram. There have been some people that have managed to create some really complementary eye looks. So as you can see in this palette, we've got like a range of these sort of weird blue tone, sort of like almost 70s vibe colors, and then we've got some really warm ones. So I can see how people using this may have been using colors to give a, maybe not so much wrong, but not in a way that's gonna work. So when I created this eye look here, I made sure that all the colors that I used on the top were all warm tones, and I wanted to create a little bit more of a complementary eye color, so I put a little bit of the blue underneath. So I'm not saying that the only way that you're ever going to be able to use a palette like this is to do warm on the top and cool on the bottom, or cool on the, or vice versa, but it is very difficult to do it any other way. It is difficult. So this isn't the only palette in the makeup world that we've actually seen like this. And I've had problems with this palette myself, and I don't know why we're not talking about it. So the palette that I'm referring the likeliness of this to is the Jeffree Star Androgyny palette. Now there are a few swatches online. Yeah, I might insert a picture of some swatches here because I can't be bothered getting messy because these are very pigmented. Just of the likeness of these two palettes. So as you can see, we've got some really gorgeous like warm tones, and then we've got some really muddy cool tones. So the first time that I used the Androgyny palette, I stuffed up right and royally. I didn't even think about this color theory. I didn't even think that this could be an issue. And I ended up with actually a video that I didn't even upload because the look was so bad. Haven't really even touched this palette since, which is sad. And it wasn't until this palette came out and I did a lot of research and I wanted to know exactly why we are having issues with it. And then put two and two together and realized that was the problem all along, is that we're just mixing the wrong colors and it's going muddy and it's going patchy because colors are neutralizing. As for this palette itself, does it have fallout? Yes, it has fallout. Does it have any more fallout than the Modern Renaissance palette? Not really. Maybe slightly more fallout, but the Modern Renaissance, to be honest, actually has a lot of fallout too, and I don't know why people are looking past that. Maybe they're looking past it because they like the color range. I'm not sure. But this definitely does have fallout, and I remember the last time I used this, I was actually a little bit taken aback by how much fallout there was in this palette. But as you see me in every single video, I'm always blowing off fallout. Like, I just always am. I'm always blowing off the kickback. Like, it's a powder. There is going to be a kickback. Granted, this palette is incredibly pigmented. So pigmented. Like, more pigmented than any other palette that I've ever seen in the way of matte eyeshadows. It's quite scary, and it's gonna be hard to work with. Like, when something's this pigmented, it is gonna be hard to work with. But do you know what? To be fair, we as beauty influencers, makeup addicts, are always going on about how important it is for a palette to have good pigmentation. We are always going on about the pigmentation of a palette. So when a company goes and brings out a palette that is so pigmented that it's like the most pigmented that the market has ever seen, we can't work with it and we complain about it. I feel like this poor company can't win. The next thing I want to touch on, yeah, I guess is the kickback, and these shadows are really soft. They are a really soft pressed shadow, and that also helps with the pigmentation. So when a shadow is really hard pressed, you're not going to get a lot out of it. You're not going to get a lot of powder out of it, and it's not going to be as pigmented. So the softer they press it, the more pigmented it's going to be. That's why a lot of people choose to work with pigments, because loose pigments, they're loose. They're so pigmented, it's literally like powdered ink. Like, it's unreal and can be really incredibly unworkable for people that aren't used to working with it. So I feel this palette is almost in the middle there. It's not quite a loose pigment, but it's not quite, you know, your normal eyeshadow palette. These are incredibly soft. So soft that actually, like, not even the shimmery ones, but even the matte ones, I can press my fingerprint into them. So that's an indication of how soft it really is. But it gives us the pigmentation that we want so badly. I've also gone through all her other palettes that I have of hers. I think I'm missing a couple of her really early ones, but the ingredients list has changed in the Subculture palette. The main ingredient in the Subculture palette is now talc rather than mica in the rest of the palettes. So whether or not that is a real issue, I've seen a lot of people say that they don't go near anything that is its main ingredient is talc because it's shit and it just flies away and blah blah blah. But to be honest, I didn't find it that bad, and I didn't really notice much of a difference between mica and talc. The next thing I really wanted to touch on quickly just before I move into the demo, and this isn't really like important to the palette, but this is just my opinion. So Anastasia Beverly Hills called the Subculture palette the sister of the Modern Renaissance palette. I disagree. I know that the company that brought it out has said this, but I disagree. I don't feel like these are sisters at all. And if they were sisters, then like imagine them to be like, do you know families that like the parents divorce and then one of the parents gets remarried and they've got a teenage daughter, so it's like two teenage daughters about the same age, just forced to spend their time together and forced to be a family because of their step parents? Well, not a true story for me, but I say it like I know the experience, but that's what I would imagine these two palettes to be. To me, they don't go together at all whatsoever. They don't marry together at all. I haven't tried using them together, but if I talk about the color theory and I look at the color theory, these don't marry together at all. There's like maybe 1, 2, 3 maybe shades that actually I feel could work out of here and actually work with these ones, not against, but with them. So to me, this is not a sister palette at all. This is more like, if these were sisters, okay, if these were people, the Modern Renaissance would be, I feel like they're teenagers. I feel like the Modern Renaissance would be like, she's a romantic, she's a little bit sultry, you know, she's constantly a daydreamer, she works really hard, she's on the hustle, you know, she's quite a happy girl, she's positive. Now to me, the Subculture, if she was a teenage girl, she would be a little bit alternative. She would be, she wouldn't really give a shit about school. She would be very grungy. She'd be very underground. She wouldn't follow the trends. She wouldn't do things that everybody else does just to follow. She would almost do the opposite just to be a little bit different. And I think she prides herself on being different. So I don't know. Can we describe palettes as people? That's how I would describe it. If there is one Anastasia Beverly Hills palette that I would truly believe is a true sister to this palette, that would be the Master Palette by Mario. Just give me a second, just like hear me out. So if you actually put these two palettes together, and this was another palette where it was just really cool toned, I didn't really know what to do with it, it was kind of just almost a grunge feel. If you actually marry these two up, in fact, it's almost the same. I feel like it's almost got the same feel. It's just a little bit more shimmery. So I think these two palettes are going to go really, really, really well together. Right, so that's all I really have to say about the palette. So let's now get on to the demo. Not gonna lie, I am slightly fearful of this palette. In that respect, I wish I never saw any reviews, I wish I never saw anything about it, but it's a little bit hard not to on the internet lately. So I am a little bit fearful, but I do believe that after seeing the amount of reviews and things that I have seen, I believe I can make this work. And had I gone into this palette not seeing the things that I've seen, I probably would have messed up terribly like everybody else has and hated the palette. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do, which I have seen about this palette, is I'm gonna powder my eyes really, really well. So I'm going to make sure that there is nothing for the powder to stick to, there is nothing for it to cling to. So I'm just going to take my RCMA no color powder. This is translucent. I've already got this on, but I'm going to add more, and I'm just going to put this all over my lid. Now I normally do this like a base anyway, but I use I don't use as much. We already know how difficult the palette is. So instead of me sitting here and doing a demo going, oh, look how difficult it is and look how shit it is and I can't make it work and they've screwed up, and I would rather actually apply everything that I've learnt and show that it is possible to make it work. It just takes a little bit more work. So that's sort of the angle that I'm going at with this demo. Now first of all, this is my standard regular fluffy brush that I always use. This is the Morphe M441. I use this brush anyway, but I have seen in other reviews that this palette may also work better with natural bristle brushes rather than synthetic fibers. So the good thing about these ones is they are goat fibers. I didn't even know they were from goats. If you're vegan, you're not going to be into them, but I always use these. These are like my favorite, so that is just lucky, I guess. So the first shade that I'm going to go in with is Dawn. I'm just going to go really, really lightly. This is a really beautiful transition color. No issues with blending so far with this shade, but this is a very pale shade, so. Okay, so that is the amount that I used. It's made a dent, and it does look like I've used it, but that is no worse than the Modern Renaissance. Okay, so moving on to the next shade, I'm going to keep using the same brush. I might just go straight in with All Star and just really, really, really lightly, just to create a little bit of a reedy sort of glow. I'm not wanting this like ultra dark, so I'm going to tap very lightly. Oh, yeah, that's pigmented. Holy crud. It is a very, very, very pigmented palette. So I think, you know, if you just go really gently with it, go really softly. Yes, this is going to be probably a palette that's going to take a lot longer to work with. It's not going to be one that you can just pick up in a hurry when you're in a hurry and just slap something on and have it look amazing and go. Well, so far so good. I don't mind that colour at all. I have no fallout whatsoever on my face just yet, so Okay. Now I'm going to take the shade Mercury, and using still again my Morphe M433, I'm going to start building up the outer corner now. My fear of this palette is like slowly starting to sort of disappear the more that, you know, each color I go through. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like petting a dog that you think's probably gonna bite you. You're like petting it and it's like all good. And then like the more that you pet it, the more you're all good with it because it's all good with you, you know? It is, I think, taking more blending than other palettes that I own, granted, other eyeshadows that I've used. But it's not terrible. It just needs more like TLC and more kindness. And now I'm going to take the shade of Dawn. It is quite creamy as it is, so I'm just going to put it on sort of like dry. And then if I feel like I need it, I'm going to put it on, I'll spray some like Matte Fix Plus on it as well. Okay, I am getting a bit of fallout from that. That is not unusual. Okay, so I am going to wet that just because of its texture. It's like almost like a really sort of flaky foiled texture. So I am going to wet it. That is totally not unusual to get fallout from using like a foily shade dry. That's totally normal. So let's try that again. It is a creamy shadow anyway, but really flaky. Comparing a little bit to like the Huda Beauty flaky sort of consistency one. So now I'm going to go back in with the shade Mercury, and I'm just going to put that in the outside corner and just blend it over again. So I'm just feeling like this look really needs just something else. I might take the shade New Wave and just a little bit of that, and I'm just going to put this on the outside of everything just to try and warm it up, give it something a bit interesting. Okay, so apologies again everyone, my camera just went and crapped out on me again. This is doing it every single time and I really don't know why, but I am working on getting a new camera within the next couple of weeks. What else have I done? Okay, so I went and took the shade New Wave and I added this just to the surrounding area of, you know, just the very, very edges of my eyeshadow look, just to warm it up a wee bit and help blend those edges. Then I also took the shade Axis, and I took this on a really small definer brush, and I just added that to the first quarter of my lower lash line, and just creating a bit of a false like inner corner, just to create something like a little bit different and a little bit, you know, I guess exciting in some sense. I'm now going to take the shade Electric and I'm going to put that on my inner corner as well. Wow, that's so pretty. For people to say that this shade Electric didn't really have any power for them, I think they just weren't using it right, you know? Like, I think definitely using one of these, even though these are shitty, and I don't even know why I've got this actually, but winner, winner, chicken dinner. Okay, so now I'm going to call it quits. I'm going to go and put some liner and lashes on, and I will be back with my final verdict. Okay, so that is it for the demo. This is the eyes completed, and yeah, I guess now we get on to the verdict. The Subculture palette. It didn't get many other people's stamps of approval. It doesn't get the Candied makeup stamp of approval. I really like this palette. I don't really see what the problem is with this palette. I really, really like it, and I don't know why everybody else is having so much trouble with it. The only reason that I can see that people are having so much trouble with it is, you know, from what I said in the beginning of my video explaining the palette a wee bit. I do believe that beginners are going to find this palette really difficult. So if you're wanting a palette that you can literally just like slap on when you're in a hurry and it looks really good and it blends really easily, then don't rely on this one, because this one does need work, this does take time. But overall, it's not like it's so impossibly unworkable that it needs to go in the bin. If you've brought this palette and you absolutely hate it as well, and you had really like a lot of trouble with it, let me know what shades you had problems with down below. And also I am pretty excited now to do a 3 looks 1 palette with this palette. I was really unsure whether I was going to be doing that due to possibly the behaviour of this palette, but I'm quite happy now to do a 3 looks 1 palette with this Subculture, so let me know down below if you'd like to see that as well. I was really, really scared of it and really unsure of it, but yeah, I'm really happy with it, and it's definitely broadened my eyes to different colour tones and how to use different colour tones. I have learned a lot out of researching this and that kind of thing, so I hope I passed that knowledge onto you guys, and now you guys have the power to make that choice. So if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, don't forget to subscribe, and you'll be seeing my face in the next one.